Order. I'm sorry to disappoint colleagues. The demand is extremely high on this occasion, and it couldn't all be satisfied. Point of order, Mr. Pete Wishart.
And a point of order, Mr. Speaker. Last night we secured today's motion on tuition fees, opposition day motion on tuition fees, with barely 20 minutes left before the House adjourned. Not only was this a discourtesy to you, Mr. Speaker, and the officials of the House, it meant that honourable and right honourable members had very little opportunity to prepare and submit an amendment to that opposition day motion. Is there anything you can do, Mr. Speaker, to oblige Labour to at least give us the topic of their opposition day on the day in the previous week's business statement, and at least ensure that all honourable and right honourable members have at least 24 hours to prepare and submit an amendment to their opposition day motions?
I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman for his point of order. Although the rules of the House require notice of opposition day motions to be given only by the rise of the House on the previous day, it is obviously helpful if longer notice is given. I think I shall leave it there for today. If there are no further points of order, point of order, Mrs. Madeline Moon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, prior to the House going into recess in July, I pressed the Leader of the House that local members be kept informed of the sale of their employ factories into the third sector. I was promised that that would be done. I have since written to the Department of Works and Pensions on the 6th, 7th and 13th of September asking for information relating to the sale of my Bridgend Remploy factory. I have received no reply to any of those letters. My understanding is that a final decision on the sale will take place either today or tomorrow.
That's great.
As a matter of courtesy, should not the Department of Works and Pensions respond to local members' letters, but also keep members informed of job losses potentially for me for 45 disabled people, so that we can work closely with bidders to ensure our factories are kept open and workers have opportunity to continue the work they so enjoy.
I'm grateful to the honourable lady for her point of order, to which I make 2 points in response. First, ministers should always reply in a timely fashion to letters from honourable and right honourable members, as they should do to questions from honourable and right honourable members. Secondly, I would say to the honourable lady that if she has been assured that she will be kept informed in advance of announced decisions, obviously that commitment should be upheld, whether the commitment was made on the floor of the House or elsewhere. The Leader of the House is not present, but I would imagine that he is within the precincts of the Palace, and I would very much hope the Deputy Leader is here, and we're extremely grateful to the Right Honourable gentleman. He has heard the message. He will have digested it already by now, I feel sure. Point of order, Mr. Henry Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hesitate to raise this as a point of order, but I would appreciate your advice, sir, on this. And I have been extremely concerned about the near monopoly situation whereby prepaid envelopes are supplied to members of Parliament without any competition. I have been in dispute, or my office has been in dispute, with banner suppliers of prepaid envelopes for an extremely long period of time with no resolution, and it has got in the way of helping to deal with constituency correspondence, and I would appreciate your advice on that.
And the honourable gentleman has raised an important point, but it isn't one immediately for the Chair. My advice to the honourable gentleman is that he should contact either the Administration Committee or the Finance and Services Committee, and if he is unsure and genuinely hesitating as to which of the two should be his preference, he could always be bold and write to both. If there are no further... There is indeed a point of order. Point of order, Mr. Paul Flynn.
In the exchanges that we had earlier about Afghanistan, there was reference made to the 3 soldiers who've died since last Thursday. I believe it's appropriate that this House also remembers the others who have died in the last few years. They are Guardsman Jamie Shadrack, 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards, aged 20, from Wrexham; Lance Corporal Matthew David Smith, Corps of the Royal Engineers, aged 26, from Aldershot, Lieutenant Andrew Robert Chesterman, 3rd Battalion, the Rifles, aged 26, from Guildford, Warrant Officer Class 2, Leonard Perrin, from the Welsh Guards from Cardiff, Craig Andrew Roderick, the 1st Battalion, the Welsh Guards, aged 22, Guardsman Petty Saru Subava.
Order. It is with some reluctance that I interrupt the honourable gentleman, but he will understand that I cannot know how long the list is that he plans to read out. And what I just want very politely to say to the honourable gentleman, so I think he deserves this response, is that I haven't forgotten the exchange that he and I had, I think on the first day back or the second day back in September, when he raised with me his view that there should be a formal oral recording periodically of lives lost, and would I look into that? And I said I would, and I am doing so, and I think it wise to proceed on the basis of consultation, and I am intending very soon to speak both to the Leader of the House and the Shadow Leader of the House and various others about this matter, and then to revert to him. I intend the honourable gentleman absolutely no discourtesy, and naturally I intend no discourtesy to the deceased, whose names he was planning to read out, but I hope that he will do me the courtesy in return of allowing me briefly but in a proper way to reflect on how we take this matter forward, and if he would be good enough to leave it there for the day, his generosity of spirit would once again be getting the better of him.
You will recall the history of this, Mr. Speaker, is that I have in the past read out the names of all those 179 who died in the Iraq War and over 200 in the Afghan War. By a deliberate decision, this is now banned in the House. And the only protest I can make against that attempt to disregard and to show, I believe, a lack of respect for the fallen is to continue by reading this list until you reach what would be, I'm sure, an obvious conclusion.
Order. Perhaps if the honourable gentleman will be good enough to take his seat. I note what he has said, but I say to him and to the House that I intend no discourtesy to anybody. What I think we can't, in all fairness, do is to make policy on the hoof. I understand his impatience for what he regards as a satisfactory resolution of this matter, and I hope that such a resolution, in whatever form, can be achieved. But meanwhile, we have to operate in accordance with some norms and practices, one of which is acceptance of the decisions of the Chair. I was happy to let the honourable gentleman proceed for a short period and to read out some names, and he has done that, but it wouldn't be right today to have a long list read out without regard to what decision the House might reach. I will reflect on it and consult, and I undertake to the honourable gentleman, in full view of the House, that I will come back to him and the House very soon. I hope that's fair for today. I'm extremely grateful to the honourable gentleman for his forbearance and his courtesy. If there are no further points of order, surely the appetite has now been exhausted. We come now to the main business. The clerk will now proceed to read the orders of the day. Point of order, Mr. Jack Dromey.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Secretary of State for Transport made a written statement of immense importance to the blind, the partially sighted and the disabled when he gave the go-ahead for station closures and destaffing of London Midland Region stations. Together with Dame Tanny Gray-Thompson and the organisations representing the disabled, we have sought to ensure that they have access to public transport and are treated as equal citizens. But, Mr. Speaker, this has been a sorry saga which has taken an unprecedented amount of time, has seen destaffing in the meantime, has seen some evidence of a deal being done behind the closed doors of the Department of Transport, and which has seen transport ministers refusing most recently to meet the organisations representing the disabled. Can I ask, Mr. Speaker, has the Secretary of State for Transport indicated his intention to come before this House, because yesterday's written statement paid scant regard to the needs of the disabled, and he should be held personally to account to ensure that they have access to public transport?
I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman. I was already aware of yesterday's written ministerial statement on this extremely important matter. Having listened to the honourable gentleman, however, I must say two things. First of all, no, I have received no indication from the Secretary of State for Transport that he wishes to make an oral statement to the House on the matter. Secondly, I am not myself currently able to identify a matter on which it would be proper for the Chair to rule in respect of his point of order, but I shall continue my search and I shall let him know upon reflection if I find a matter upon which I can rule. And the last point I make to the honourable gentleman is that he's a very experienced old hand who is certainly keen to continue to air his concerns on this matter, and he may wish to develop his thoughts more fully in an adjournment debate. Point of order, Mr. Chris Bryan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today it's been revealed that the Metropolitan Police have known for 10 years, have fully known for 10 years, that the News of the World commissioned a company called Southern Investigations to commit burglaries, to secure information and to confirm potentially scurrilous and, as it turned out, completely baseless rumours. And indeed that they knew that one of the executives at the News of the World, Alex Moranchek, was directly involved in this. That evidence that has been given by an undercover police officer reveals that he knew then, and I'm quoting his words, that ministers, MPs and Home Secretaries were the targets of such burglaries because they had a view to bribe them or to influence them. Now, you will know that it is an absolute fundamental principle of this House that we should be able to do our job on behalf of our constituents without fear or favour. Can I urge you to contact the Metropolitan Police, perhaps through the Sergeant-at-Arms, so as to ensure that all those MPs who the Metropolitan Police knows have been targeted in this way are told that they were the targets of this activity, this criminal activity?
Well, it could be said to be a point of order, but I always view any paragraphs from the honourable gentleman as a kind of treatise. And I think that it would be as well for me to reflect upon his treatise and to respond to him and not to make any rash commitment today. These are matters that he and the honourable gentleman, the member for West Bromwich East, are especially given and very properly given to pursuing on the basis of considerable research and knowledge. I will do him the courtesy of further reflection and then I will revert to him and, if necessary, to the House. Point of order, Mr. Gareth Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Human Rights Watch have recently published further evidence of failed Tamil asylum seekers from the UK who have been deported by the UK Borders Agency, being tortured on their return to Sri Lanka. Whilst the whole House wants to make sure that there are strong immigration policies in this country and that they're adhered to, the whole House surely also would be concerned about these reports of torture. I wonder, Mr. Speaker, whether you have heard of any written statement by the Home Secretary seeking to clarify her policy on the deportation of Tamil asylum seekers in the light of this new evidence.
I have not. But my hunch is that the honourable gentleman will wish to pursue this matter further, and the House will doubtless wait expectantly. If there are no further points of order, we come now to the 10-minute rule motion. Mr. Nick Smith.